Today in this class, we'll go to know about the rights of surety. Don't you think surety has certain rights? He is taking the burden of principal debtor in case of his default in payment, and in turn he has to be compensated. He has got certain rights, and it is mentioned in our Indian Contract Act also. Now, let us try to know what are his rights one by one. He has got rights against three persons. The first is the principal debtor. The second one is the creditor, and the third one is the co-sureties. It is very well known fact that he has got a right against principal debtor. In case if the principal debtor makes a default in his payment, who has to pay? Yes, it is the surety who has to pay. So he has got a right now to recover that amount from principal debtor. Surety has got no interest in the loan transaction, or he has got no benefit from the transaction. It is the principal debtor who has the benefit. The surety is just assuring the creditor that he will pay in case of default by principal debtor. When he does so, he has to get back his money, at least which he has spent from his pocket, right? So, in case of default by principal debtor, surety is paying, and the principal debtor has to pay back to the surety. The next point is the creditor. So, he has got certain rights against creditor also. That is right to security and right to set off. We'll go in detail to explain the explanation in each point. We'll go in detail. Don't worry. So, remember now that he has got two rights. That is right to security. Security means if at the time of giving the loan, we have usually, even we would have come across, if we were taken any loan, you give some security, right, for your loan amount. The security is also given here also under by the principal debtor to the creditor, and the security would be helpful for the surety. How? We'll discuss. Then right to set off. Set off is also a quite interesting topic, which is very simple. First, you know what are the right. The next one is right of surety against co-sureties. Even the surety has got some of the rights against co-sureties. One is liable to contribute equally and bound in different sums. This also will deal it. Now let's go one by one and see what is it in detail. Now first one, against principal debtor. So what are the rights he has got against the principal debtor is right of subrogation and right of indemnity. There are two rights, that is right of subrogation and right to indemnity. Now let's come to the first point, which is dealt under section 140, right of subrogation. What is right of subrogation? What do you mean by subrogation first? Let's know what is subrogation. Subrogation means he is substituting, or he is coming in that place. What it means is, see, there is one person, instead of him, the other person comes into his place. That is basically subrogation. Remember. Now, how is surety and principal debtor and right to subrogation related? Now, let's know. What happens in this right of subrogation is, now the principal debtor makes a default. We'll take an example that principal debtor has taken a loan of 10,000 from creditor, and there's a surety for this particular transaction, and the principal debtor makes a default in his payment. Now the surety comes, he pays the money, plus if there is any interest, he'll pay and he'll clear the amount. Now what happens? Now the surety has got a right to recover from whom? Principal debtor. So now the surety comes into the place of creditor. He himself becomes a creditor and asks principal debtor to give his money. He can recover his money. That is from surety to, he is becoming from surety to creditor. That is subrogation. That is substituting. He is coming from the place of surety, being surety, to creditor. That is substitution. That is subrogation. Got it? Simple. So what you have to explain here is, The surety, after making the default or after paying the default amount to the creditor, comes to the place of the creditor and can claim and recover his money from the principal debtor. Simple. Now let's take a case law. In this case law, in lamp length iron ore case, the case is very simple. What happens at the time of liquidation of the company? One of the director comes forward and he becomes a guarantee and he pays all the rent which is due from the company to its creditors, and he clears all the rent amount which were due before the date of liquidation. He clears it. Now it was held that in this case that the director has paid the amount, right? Now he was a surety there. That is, he gives a guarantee. He guaranteed and he paid the rents. Now he says in the place of surety. Now he steps into the place of creditor and claim the money whatever he has paid as a rent for the sake of company. The company has to even give him whatever he has paid from his pocket. Got it? This is a wonderful case law to explain about how the person from being a surety comes to the place of creditor. Got it? The rents were due by the company and one of the director guarantees that I will pay and he has paid before the date of liquidation. The case is as simple as this, and it was held by the court that yes, he becomes the creditor once after paying all the default amount to his creditors. Then he steps to be a creditor and he can recover the amount from the principal debtor. I think the case is simple, and this right of subrogation mainly deals with this only, that is the principal debtors making a default, surety paying the amount to the creditor, then surety becoming the creditor and recovering it from the principal debtor. I think this case is clear. This point is clear. Do remember, right of subrogation, it is given under section 140 of Indian Contract Act. Now let's go to the next point. Right to indemnity, section 145. We studied what indemnity means. Indemnity means making good the loss or to compensate. Right? We studied it earlier. So here, right to indemnity. Surety has a right to be indemnified by the principal debtor. Don't you think this point and this point are similar? They are relevant to each other. Indemnity. So, the surety is incurring certain loss. How is he incurring the loss? He is making the payment on behalf of principal debtor for the loan transaction to the creditor. Right? Remember, always simple thing. Remember a loan transaction wherein you have principal debtor and creditor and surety. Then you can explain all the things. Anything relevant to contract act, contract of guarantee, you can explain it beautifully. Just remember those examples whenever there is a default or something. Okay, now let's get back to this. So, right to indemnity. So, there is a loan transaction which the principal debtor has made a default, and creditor is asking for the money and surety. Finally, he says, okay, I don't want to take all this headache. I'll clear off all the principal debtors' money, because since I have given you the assurance that yes, I will pay. Now, my question is, when he is paying, the surety is paying, he has to be indemnified, right? He has to be compensated by the whom? Principal debtor, right? Yes, that's all. Here, section 145 speaks about right to indemnity. Remember, the surety has a right to be indemnified by principal debtor. Got it? And your section also gives certain conditions that it should be a rightfully paid amount. We'll take an illustration for this and I'll explain for you what is rightfully paid and what is not rightfully paid, wrongfully paid. First, we'll see for the rightfully paid. Now, the principal debtor has, again, we'll come back to the classical example. Principal debtor has taken the loan from creditor for 10,000 rupees and there is a surety for this. After some days, the principal debtor doesn't pay the amount. Initially he pays and later he stops his payment. So the creditor waits for some time and also the interest keeps on occurring, right? We'll be incurring some interest also. Then finally what happens? He requests surety also. See, principal debtor is not paying, you pay. Even the surety doesn't pay at all. So now what should the creditor do? He approaches the court of law, keeping this contract of guarantee. The court says nothing doing. Yes, the surety and principal debtor has to pay. Now principal debtor, he cannot pay. Then the surety says, if he is not paying, forget, I'll pay. I'll clear all the sums. Now how much should the surety pay? Surety has pay. I told you this earlier. Surety has to pay the principal amount 10,000 plus interest on principal amount, right? Plus cost incurred in recovering from the principal debtor. Whatever the cost is incurred, he has to pay for that also. He recovers from the creditor recovers from the surety for this amount. Now it is a rightful amount. It is calculated properly and you have got it properly, right? On a reasonable ground and proper ground, these three have to be recovered. These three items have to be recovered. That is principal amount plus interest plus whatever the cost incurred in recovering the amount, principal amount. So he recovers from the surety. Now, how much can surety recover? Surety can also recover these three amounts. That is, because surety has not done any mistake. Principal debtor had to pay, he doesn't pay. Now since he is under loss, now he has to recover from principal debtor. So now surety can recover these three amounts. That means he has rightfully paid these three amounts as per the court's decision and as per the contract of guarantee. Thereby he has to recover this amount which the surety has paid rightfully to the creditor. Got it? Simple. Now what is wrongfully paid? We'll take an illustration again for this. In this case again, come back to our classical example. A takes a loan from B. Okay. Principal debtor takes a loan from creditor. Fine. There is a surety for this also. Then there is a default in payment by principal debtor. So he approaches surety. Surety says, why should I pay? Go, I'll file a case against you. Here, surety is filing a case against creditor. Remember, surety is filing a case that I cannot pay, I should not pay, all those things. Now they go to the court. There the court says, what is this? Surety, you are liable. You have to pay. You have entered into a contract of guarantee and as per the terms and conditions, you have to pay. Then the surety has to pay. He has to go and now he has to pay. What all he has to pay? Number one, he pays the principal amount and he also pays some interest also if there was a default. And third was the expenses, legal expenses, right? He has to pay that also. Because even the creditor has come to the court and he has paid certain fees. For that he has to recover it from surety. He recovers from surety. Now, what do you think? How much amount should the surety recover from the principal debtor? Principal debtor did not file any case. It is only surety. Surety says, I won't pay, and he files a case against creditor. So it was on a wrongful ground, right? Was there a proper reason to file a case? No, they have entered in the contract initially itself with all the terms and conditions saying that in case of default by principal debtor, surety is going to pay. He has simply filed a case against the creditor. Don't you think that was not a proper ground? So he cannot recover the expenses which he has incurred in the court cases. He can only recover the principal amount plus whatever the interest is there. He can recover that much, but he cannot recover the wrongfully paid. What that is on the court cases. Legal expenses cannot be recovered. That is wrongfully paid. So under right of indemnity, number 1 point, as per the section 145. The surety can be indemnified, has a right to be indemnified by the principal debtor for what is rightfully paid. You can give the two illustration and you can beautifully explain what it is actually, what is rightfully paid and what is wrongfully paid. Remember the legal expenses. Surety is filing a case against creditor on the baseless ground, so he has to pay for it. Okay, and he cannot recover it from the principal debtor. He can recover only the principal amount and if there is any interest. Got it? Next point is benefit of security. if you notice, all these points are interrelated, overlapping. This right of subrogation, you find it in right of indemnity. Again, you find it in right of security. Again, you find it in set off. This keeps on overlapping. So it is very easy. You get this question also. So it is very easy. Please do attempt this and just try to analyze it. That's all. So right of benefit of security. Now, what is right of benefit of security? That comes under your section 145 itself. That means, if the principal debtor has given any security when at the time of entering the contract of guarantee, and the surety is aware of this security means anything he has pledged or hypothecated, he has given his property or he has given any of his goods has a pledge. See, in case if I don't pay, you can even recover from this property. If he says that, then that is all your security means. So any goods or property. So the principal debtor can get a benefit of security, that is, when he pays the amount, when the surety is paying the amount, when the principal debtor has made default to the creditor has to give the securities to him. Whatever the security is there has to give him, so that this surety will be benefited from that. If at all principal debtor even does not pay surety also, surety can recover the amount from the security. Got it? Simple. Remember again, if there is some property, there is a land, and the surety, the principal debtor has given it to the creditor at the time of contract of guarantee. The principal debtor makes a default, surety pays. So once the surety clears the office of the loan, it is the responsibility of the creditor to give the hand over the security to the surety, so that surety can obtain certain benefits from that property or goods. Got it? So that he can sell it and he can realize the amount whatever he has paid. That's all. So the two very important points under right to indemnity is rightfully paid, it has to be rightfully paid, and benefit of security. That is, in order to compensate for his loss, he can have the benefit of the security. He can take the security from the creditor and can recover his money. That's it. For both the sections, you have one common case law, C.K. Abu Bakr versus K.P. Aishu. In this case, it was in Kerala High Court. It was held that, for us here, the very important is the judgment. What is the judgment saying? Combining both these things, this right of subrogation and right of indemnity, the judgment was given. What the judgment says was, see, in case of default by the principal debtor, the surety pays to the creditor. As soon as the surety pays to the creditor the amount which is made default by the principal debtor, he comes into the place of the creditor. He acts as a creditor. He becomes a creditor and can recover the money from the principal debtor. Point number 1. That is your right of subrogation. Again, it further also said that the principal debtor, it is the duty of the principal debtor to pay the amount to surety, that is indemnify, to compensate the surety. Your right of indemnity is also said there. And next point, what they say is, in case of substantial payment, that is, you can say a partial payment by the principal debtor. If he is paying some part payment for 10,000, he has made a payment of 2,000, the remaining balance amount has to be paid by the surety. I gave an example for your better understanding. The court said that for substantial amount or a partial amount which is paid by, whatever, he can pay for 8,000 and remaining, he has paid a major portion, or he might have paid only a little amount. For whatever it is, the balance amount has to be borne by the surety. That means that in case if the principal debtor has paid something, he has made a part payment, the balance amount has to be paid by the surety. That's all. Clear? So I think you're clear with right of surety against principal debtor. It is under your section 140 and 145. We'll go to the next part. Right of surety against creditor. Now creditor, who's a creditor? the person who is lending, the borrower, or the lender becomes the creditor. The lender becomes the creditor. So what are the rights available to surety? Right to security. We dealt with this point in the previous right itself. I told you everything is overlapping. It is very good, but you are discussing from other person's viewpoint. First point was from principal debtor's viewpoint, next from creditors, next from co-sureties. That's all. Simple. Right to security. So now for securities, I told you it is discussed in section. It is discussed in section 141 of your Indian Contract Act. Now, this right to security, what do you mean by right to security? As explained here, once the principal debtor makes a default, the surety pays the amount and the creditor has to hand over the security, whatever he has, to the surety. So that surety gets some benefit. So that in case if the principal debtor does not pay surety, surety can sell it and can recover some amount from it, right? So that is right to surety. That is, creditor has to give the security to whom? To surety, in case if surety is making the payment. Got it? Here you have certain points. What are those? Received at the time of contracts. Received at the time of contract. It means if a person is receiving at the time of contract, means now today principal debtor and creditor, they enter into a contract for some loan. So today they are entering and principal debtor is giving certain property or any of his goods as a security. Now, since they are giving at the time of contract, it is also mentioned in contract and in the contract of guarantee. So, surety is also aware of it, right? That's why it is always valid that whatever is received at the time of the contract, the surety has got a right over it. Fine? I think that is clear. So, always remember, surety is entitled for the benefits of such securities which the creditor has given which the creditor has against the principal debtor, given by the principal debtor at the time of entering the contract. Number 1 point. If the creditor loses the security, we'll come to that. If the creditor loses the security and if it is not due to his negligent acts, it is not due to his voluntary acts, then the principal debtor can be discharged of it. We have already studied this earlier also. In case of his non-negligent act, that is, if he voluntarily does not do anything, then fine, principal debtor. Principal debtor does not. Now, right of surety against the creditor. The surety has got certain right against the creditor also. What are those rights? Those are right to security and right to set off. Right to security is dealt under section 141 of Indian Contract Act. What it says, we just discussed about it. Right to get security here, benefit of security. Second point, that means again, if the principal debtor is making any default in his payment, surety pays for it. In case if surety has given some property, some land to the creditor as a pledge, at that time what happens is pledged his property as a security. Now surety pays the default amount, right? Now don't you think surety has got a right for that property? It is the creditor's duty to hand over that property, that security amount or that security property to the surety. Why? It is for the benefit of the surety, so that he can recover. If at all, if principal debtor does not pay surety also, then surety can recover it from whom? Yes, he can recover it from the principal debtor, from that property he can sell the property, he can recover some amount, or else if the principal debtor is giving the amount, fine. But still having it as a security is his right. So that is what is shown in this particular section. Now let us see the first point. There are certain points in this. The first point is received at the time of contract. If the security is received at the time of contract, usually whenever you are entering a contract of loan transaction and all, you tell them that you are giving this property or the schools as a security, right? You won't do it later, but you give it at the time of entering the contract itself. But there are cases also where after the contract is entered, then the property is given as a security. It is accepted in English law. Well, we'll discuss about it later, bit later. Here it comes again here, wherein we have to discuss. Now first we'll see received at the time of the contract. When they are entering the contract, they are receiving it. Now let's take an example. Now A gives a loan of rupees 5,000 or any amount 5,000 to B. Then B gives his security. A gives a loan to B, right? Again from first we see A gives a loan to B, right, of 5,000 rupees. B has got certain furniture. He gives that furniture to A and says, in case of my failure of payment, you can recover it. And there is also surety for this transaction C. So all these three parties are there. Now they enter into a contract, and what happens the principal debtor, he fails in making the payment. He has given us furniture. So what does the creditor do? That is A. He sells the furniture and he realizes a certain amount. See, the loan amount was for 5,000. We assumed it to be 5,000. So he realizes up to 3,000. Now the surety becomes liable for 2,000, right? The balance amount surety becomes liable. So here the most important point relevant to our topic now, whatever we're discussing, there was the furniture which was given at the time of entering the contract. That is, at the time of entering the contract, and the surety was also aware that the particular furniture was given was pledged to the creditor. So he has to pay in case of failure by the principal debtor. It has to be paid. The creditor is going to sell it and receive the proceeds, and it becomes a part payment, that is up to 3,000 extent the furniture has been pledged. So remaining 2,000 he has to pay. Since he is aware of it and everything is done, then it is well accepted and it is valid. In case if what if surety is not aware of it? So in the next case, we'll take next illustration. What happens that, again same example only we'll take. The principal debtor has taken a loan for worth 5,000 only, and the principal debtor gives some of his property or goods. Initially he doesn't give anything, they've just taken a loan. Sorry for that. A takes a loan from B, the principal debtor takes a loan from creditor for 5,000, and there is a surety for that. C becomes a surety, and they've entered into a transaction. They entered into this contract and everything is fine, but the principal debtor makes default in his payment. They approach the court, everything is done. Then finally the court says that the surety and the principal debtor has to pay. Now what does this principal debtor and creditor do? They enter into a private contract saying that, see, I'll give you my furniture, you please take this furniture, you sell it, whatever you get, you please take. The furniture was also worth 5,000, you take it as 5,000. So now they do it. Now surety, he doesn't know, he also he thinks that he has to pay. Now do you think after this particular pledge thing, whatever has happened, the security given is after the contract, after they have entered the contract. So do you think in any case, if the there is if the amount is decreased, if he doesn't get completely 5,000 worth after selling the furniture, do you think this surety becomes liable for this? No, since surety is not at all aware of the private transaction between the principal debtor and creditor. So surety in no way becomes liable. So it is always safe that has to be received at the time of contract. Once it is received by the contract, all three parties sign and they agree mutually, right? So this is what it happens in the contract of guarantee. That is, it has to be, whatever the security it is, it has to be taken at the time of the contract to be valid, and also the surety will also be aware of it, right? That is a more important thing to be noted, that surety must be aware whatever is happening relevant to at least the transaction, whatever the amount they are giving. If in case if they pledge some goods, that should be known to surety, right? We have discussed this many times. The next point to be discussed, receipt at the time of contract, you've got to know what it is. I gave you two examples, one with the consent of surety and without the consent of the surety. It is done. The first point is, it is received at the time of contract. They are entered in the contract and it is mentioned in the contract. The second one, they are not at all mentioned in the contract and it is a private transaction between principal debtor and creditor. The next point is loss. Loss in case if the securities are lost without creditor's negligence. What if it is lost without the creditor's negligence? If it is lost if there's a loss of securities by the creditors, it results into discharge of surety, right? We have dealt this also in detail, that it results in discharge of surety. So however, in case of hypothecated goods or pledged goods, he cannot have a claim for that property. In case if he has lost certain goods, see the principal debtor has given some furniture, has a pledge, and if he loses that, do you think the surety will be able to claim it? The surety will be automatically discharged from it. Got it? Got this example? Fine. The next point is only the hypothecated property. Do you think that on hypothecated property, the surety has any hold? The creditor himself does not have that possession. What is he going to do from the hypothecated property? Sell it and recover the sale proceeds. So he cannot get the possession and he cannot claim under section 141. We'll also again discuss this point here, hypothecated goods. So loss without the creditor's negligence. So the surety is discharged. The next one more important point is, I want to discuss this, the security received after the contract is entered. What if after the time of contract is entered, what happens? So what happens is, as per our law, it is not accepted. Basically, it is not considered valid, because after the contract, in case if the surety is not aware of it, it doesn't become liable for that particular contract. That is, he doesn't become liable for any default amount. I explained you this in this point itself. What happens if he is not aware of it, and if they have privately agreed, and in case if the principal debtor and creditor they privately agree, after the contract of guarantee is entered and surety is not aware, do you think surety is anywhere responsible for it? No, right? Okay. Next point, no right in hypothecated goods. So I told you there is no possession at all, right, in hypothecated goods. So the surety cannot claim his benefit under section 141 for any hypothecated goods. Next point, part payment. Now this is one important point to be noted, part payment. So what happens in this case is, in this point, what I am trying to say is, we'll take an example. The principal debtor has given a loan to, principal debtor has taken a loan from creditor worth 10,000 rupees. There is a surety also. What principal debtor does is, he has a land, he gives it to the surety. He gives it to the creditor, which is worth 5,000 rupees only. The property is worth 5,000 rupees, that land. Now surety agrees to pay the remaining balance amount. He pays for that. Now the question before the court was, if the surety can claim his right over the security which he has given to the creditor at the time of entering the contract. You got my. Now we'll deal with part payment. What are these part payments? We have discussed this in earlier that sometimes the surety may not be liable for the entire amount for the default made. He may undertake only, he may limit the extent of his liability. He pays only certain amount. Now coming to, we are discussing about security also. So what happens, we'll take an example for this. Principal debtor gives a security to creditor. He has taken certain loan and also there is a presence of surety. So they enter into a contract of guarantee with a security and surety has been. Now they have entered into the contract. Now the next what happens? Here the surety has agreed for only a part payment. He says that I won't be able to pay the entire loan amount. I'll pay after only the half of the amount, and anyways the principal debtor has given the surety, right? Security, right? He has given a security as some property, right? So you can recover from that. You can proceed and recover from that also. Now, fine, all this the transaction was entered into. Now what happens? They fire the principal debtor. He was paying his amount initially. Now let's take an example. That principal debtor enters into a transaction with a creditor for a loan amount worth 5,000 rupees. Now surety has given that he will be paying 2,000 rupees. The principal debtor has given some of his goods, some furniture as a security to creditor. In case if I don't be able to pay, you please proceed with my furniture. You can anyway surety is giving 3,000 rupees, remaining 2,000 from the furniture you can recover. So creditor is on a safer side. Now what happens? One day, fine, everything is done. The principal debtor is paying the amount regularly. He pays the amount, then he makes some default. So now he pays to the extent of 2,000. We'll assume it as 2,000, and the principal debtor is liable. The surety is liable to principal debtor's default up to 3,000. 5,000 out of 5,000, 2,000 is paid by a principal debtor and 3,000 surety is liable. Now here the creditor recovers it from the surety. Now surety says, creditor, it is my right to have that security. Please give that security to me so that I can recover from the principal debtor. That is only your right to security means, right? Fine. Now the question arose that whether, see, the furniture is worth whatever it's worth is. It's maybe sometimes more than whatever the surety has given his that he'll be paying the amount, whatever the amount surety has undertaken to pay, the value of the goods or the property which was pledged by principal debtor could be more. It might be less also. Forget all this. Now the question arises, for the part payments whatever they have made, should the surety be given? Can he claim that pledged property or hypothecated or pledged property has his, that is the security, whatever the goods have been given as a security, can he claim that? Can that be given to him? There were two different opinions about this. The first one was in the case of Govardhan Das versus Bank of Bengal. It was a decision by Bombay High Court. It stated that how is it possible that when it is fully satisfied, when the claims of creditor is completely satisfied, then he can give the security. If at all no, then he cannot give the security. In the next case, in Bushya versus Surya Narayan, it was a Madras case. It says that yes, the security can be given, whatever for the payment he has made, so much the security was given. Now two different view was given. So now what he has to do? In the second case, the Madras High Court said that it is his right. The surety has a right. He can claim. He is entitled for that. What to do? As per 141 section, it says that if the surety has a right, that creditor has to give the security to surety for his benefit, right? This view was a bit contradicting, but you can say that whatever the Bombay High Court ruled was, was better. That is, in case only if the full amount is satisfied, then he can give the security to the surety, right? If at all it is not completely satisfied, giving it for the part payment, it doesn't make something very much appealing. So maybe the Bombay High Court's decision you can take into consideration, but two views were given in this. Please do mention this, and you can mention whatever is given in section 141, that it is always for the benefit. You have to look for the benefit of the surety, because even he has to be compensated for the losses which he has incurred. Got it? So we'll go to the next portion, that is right to set off. Now, right to set off, to be easily understood, very easy, we'll take it. See, it is given as it is counterclaim or deductions from the loans. If the principal debtor has got certain counterclaims or deductions by the creditors, don't you think even the surety has a benefit for that, and even he can get a benefit from that? I see what I said under section 128, both are coextensive. The liability of surety and principal debtor is coextensive with each other. So don't you think both have got the benefit? So in case if the loan amount of surety, principal debtor is reduced, at the same time sureties is also reduced, right? Right? Yes. So that is what the set off means. Set off means is very simple. Whenever the right of set off you get it, remember, if the principal debtor has some counter claim, or if there is a deductions from his loan, if his loan amount is deducted, better remember, loan amount deduction is very easy to remember. If there are any deductions, then the surety also get this benefit from the creditor. Got it? Easy. See, counter claim or deductions from the loans, surety also can claim that. He can say that you have given the deductions to principal debtor. That means it is implied that you have even given deductions to me. We'll go to the next part. Easy? Clear? So rights of surety against principal debtor and creditor are clear, right? We'll go to the next part, that is right of surety against co-sureties. This is again very easy. We have seen this. So it comes under section 146. That is liable to contribute equally. Means it says that every surety has to contribute equally. In case if there is any condition that it is a loan for 30,000 and there are 3 sureties for this. You can have a number of sureties. There is no limit of sureties as is mentioned anywhere in the contract. So if there are 3 sureties, each of them contributing 10,000. So that means that they are liable to contribute equally. So it is one of the, they can recover it from the principal debtor. Principal debtor 10,000 each by each sureties. That's all. This means liable to contribute equally. That is, they are contributing equally. By the contribution is made equally by the sureties and co-surety. That's all. Simple explanation. We have already dealt with this under co-surety topic. The next is bound in different sums. What that is dealt in section 147. What if they are bound in different sums? Here we saw that equally for 30,000 amount, each of the surety A, B and C is a surety. They are paying 10,000, 10,000 and 10,000 each. So they can recover 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 from principal debtor in case of his default. Here bound in different sums means we'll consider there are 2 sureties. The loan amount is for 10,000. They say that, see principal debtor, you are my friend, so I'll be your surety. So my liability, I can only limit my extent. That is, my surety 1 says that I will be only able to pay up to the amount of 4,000. Surety number 1 says so much. And surety number 2 says that, okay my friend, I will bear up to 6,000. So whenever there is there is difference in sums, and they can claim from the principal debtor, they can recover from the principal debtor to whatever extent they are liable. In case if the surety number 1 is paying 4,000, surety number 1 can recover 4,000 up to the extent of 4,000, and he has to pay up to the extent of 4,000 to the creditor and recover 4,000 from principal debtor. Surety number 2 has agreed for 6,000. He can pay to 6,000 to creditor and recover 6,000 from principal debtor. Simple. You got to know what are the rights of surety. Fine. We just revise it. This is your last topic under the contract of guarantee. The rights of surety. He has rights against principal debtor, creditor and co-sureties. The principal debtor, right of subrogation, that is right of substitution. He is coming to the place of creditor after he making the payment to the initially whatever the creditor, whoever the creditor was there. Principal debtor has taken a loan. So after paying that loan, he comes as a creditor. He steps into the place of a creditor and he recovers the amount from principal debtor. Next is right to indemnity. Indemnity means to compensate. Then you have certain points, that rightfully paid and benefit of security. You have this case wherein the decision was given by Kerala High Court. Here, the right of surety against creditor, right to security. So he has got some security, whatever the security given at the time of the contract, he has got right over that. So that is explained in this point. Then right to set off. If there is, we'll take right to set off. Remember the simple thing, loan transaction. If there is a reduction in loan transaction for the principal debtor, even the amount is reduced for surety. Surety can also claim that amount. Next is right against the co-sureties, that is they are liable to pay equally. If there is a condition, yes, they have to pay equally, and if they are bound in different sums, only to that extent they can claim and they have to pay for that, and they have a right to recover for it. That's all. This is about rights of surety. Now this is a very important question from your examination point of view also. You may be asked to differentiate between contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee. Now before going into difference between contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee, do you think there are any similarities between contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee? They are not much, but you can find it at one instance. When principal debtor is making a default, surety undertakes to pay. So when we were discussing the basics of contract of guarantee, we got to know the types of contract. We studied what are the types of contract that exist mutually between these three parties, and we got to know that there is an implied contract between surety and the principal debtor. That is, whenever there is a default made by principal debtor and the surety is paying for this, it automatically means that surety has to be compensated for the losses which he has incurred by paying the creditor. So it's a sort of resemblance to contract of indemnity. Indemnity also we saw that there is a compensation given at the time of loss by one person. So there is some sort of resemblance, only to this extent. We do not find much resemblance. So in order to be more clear, now let us understand the difference between them. We'll go as per our Indian Contract Act. There you find contract of indemnity and then contract of guarantee under this particular section. The first difference is sections under Indian Contract Act. So you find section 124 and 125 deals with contract of indemnity. What is 124? Here you can also have a revision, quick revision of contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee. So contract of indemnity is dealt in section 124. The definition is given in 124 and 125 gives the rights of indemnity holder against the indemnifier. Got it? Fine. Contract of guarantee. Contract of guarantee is dealt from section 126 to 147. 126 gives the definition. Do remember the basic thing, at least 126 gives the definition. Then 128 it is the liability of the surety is coextensive with the liability of the principal debtor. Section 128 and 129 is your continuing guarantee. These are the very important sections. Please remember it. Then we'll come to the definition part. What does the contract of indemnity says that one party promises to save other from the losses caused by the conduct of the promisor or other person. It says that one party is promising the another party, saying that If any losses occur, I will be there. The promisor himself says that I'll compensate you for the losses, or you can, or if the loss is caused by other person, other third party also, I'll be there. I will compensate for that losses. Got it? And a contract of guarantee, what the definition says, a contract to perform the promise or discharge the liability of the third person who has made a default. So it says that if there is any default by that person, he has promised something, I will perform. The surety comes and says, a person comes and says, I will perform the duty or I will discharge that liability. So this is the contract of guarantee and indemnity. You can even include one more difference in this. You can give the basic meaning. I gave you the basic meaning, right? Contract of indemnity means make good the loss or to compensate. You can just include that also. And a guarantee means an assurance. So you can include that also. That would also be very beneficial to you. Next, the third point is parties. Now, who are the parties? Under contract of indemnity, we saw that there are two parties. Who are those? Indemnifier and indemnity holder. Indemnity holder is also otherwise called as indemnified. Indemnifier, other name is promisor, promisee. Remember this. Got it? Don't get confused. If you get confused with the indemnifier and indemnity holder, promisor and promisee would be very easy. Or else if you remember, but technically you have to write indemnifier and indemnity holder. Under contract of guarantee, there are three parties. The first one is principal debtor, next one is creditor, and the other one is surety. Got it? Who is the principal debtor? Borrower. Who is the principal creditor? Lender. Surety is a person who comes forward and say that in case of default by the principal debtor, he will be paying the creditor. Clear? The fourth point is number of contracts. How many contracts do you see in this? There is only one contract between indemnifier and indemnified. When coming to the contract of guarantee, how many contracts you see? It is a tripartite contract. That is, there is a three contracts that exist in contract of guarantee. Now, what are the types of contract that comes in your fifth one? It is an implied contract in this. It is very well said that modes of contract may be written or oral, but it is very much implied that indemnifier indemnifies makes up for the losses of indemnity holder. Got it? Whenever the indemnifier has promised to make up the loss to the indemnity holder, he has to do that. That is, whenever there is some loss which is incurred by the indemnity holder, indemnifier will be making up for the losses. Here it is the principal contract, secondary contract, and implied contract. Remember, types of contract I explained. Principal contract exists between the main contract. I told you it is a main contract between principal debtor and the creditor. That is your principal contract. That is, principal debtor is taking loan from the creditor and he says that he will repay that. That is main contract. Without that, principal debt, existence of principal debt is very much necessary in order to be called as contract of guarantee. The second one is secondary contract. Secondary contract is between surety and the creditor. Creditor, so whenever there is a default by principal debtor, only then surety comes forward. If the principal debtor is paying regularly to the creditor, then surety won't come into picture at all. So he's secondary. After only principal debtor's default, surety comes to the picture. Fine? That's why secondary contract. Then implied contract. Between principal debtor and surety, there is always an implied contract. It need not be expressed. You need not write it in contract of guarantee also. There is an express contract saying that whenever the surety is paying for principal debtor's default, he automatically becomes creditor. I explained you. He comes forward and he steps into the shoes of the creditor and he can recover the money from the principal debtor for whatever the losses incurred by the surety. Remember? So this is type of revision also. Very good. Next part is object. Sixth point is object. What is the object of indemnity? If there are any losses, it is for the protection of the losses of indemnity holder. You have to remember this properly. IH means indemnity holder. Then, what is the object of contract of guarantee? It is just providing security to the creditor. So the creditor is giving a loan and he needs security. So that is why this main purpose is to give security to the creditor by having a surety that even if there is a failure in the payment by principal debtor, surety is always there, assuring. Next is liability. Coming to the liability, it is of a primary nature. I mean, what happens as soon as there is any loss? It may be by the promisor himself or by other person. As soon as there is a loss, the indemnity holder should be indemnified, right? That is primary. At very first instance, primary means the main. At the very first instance, he has to be indemnified. Got it? This point is clear. Liability of surety is secondary. What type of contract is between creditor and the surety? It is secondary, I told you, right? Why? Because if the principal debtor makes default, then only surety comes into the picture. That is why liability of the surety is secondary. That is after. Under contract of guarantee, surety is an important person and his role comes only on the default made by principal debtor. So liability of him becomes secondary in nature. Then recovery of losses. From whom can the recovery be made in the contract of indemnity? The indemnity holder can recover from indemnifier, a person promising that he will pay for the losses. So he can recover from whatever the indemnity holder has paid from his pocket, it can be recovered from the indemnifier. Next, recovery from principal debtor. Surety comes and he says that I will pay in case of default by principal debtor. So now he has paid, surety has paid. So from whom can he recover? He can recover it from his principal debtor. Simple. The next type of liability. This is a certain, like, it is contingent. It may arise sometimes, it may not arise. There are situations like it may arise and may not. Not necessarily that there should be always some loss. So it may arise or may not arise. But here what happens? The liability is subsisting. Once the contract is entered, there are three parties: principal, debtor, creditor and surety. Surety has already taken the liability that yes, I will pay for principal debtor. So it is going on, it is there. Till when it is there? It is suspended for time being. Till when? Till when, that is, principal debtor makes his default. Once the principal debtor makes default, automatically surety becomes liable and he has to pay for it. Got it? So these are the simple differences and very important also, which you may be getting in your questions. Most of the question papers you go through, you get this question. First, what is contract of indemnity, and you get the difference between contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee. Since there is a very few resemblance, I mean not a major one, very small. There also you're making up for the loss, here also somewhere you're making up for the loss. So that is why you may find it there is some resemblance, but exactly you have many differences. So that's why every time they got to ask this question, difference between contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee. Now let's have a quick revision on this. So the revision: contract of indemnity is one person promises the other person to indemnify for the losses. That is, it is either by promisor or by the other person. That is mentioned under section 124 of your act, Indian Contract Act. Two parties, indemnifier and indemnity holder. Under section 125 gives the rights of the indemnity holder against the indemnifier. There are three rights: damages, costs and sums, which can be recovered by him. And we had something dealt with insurance, whether insurance is a contract of guarantee, contract of indemnity. We had two viewpoints, from Indian viewpoint and we studied from England viewpoint. There we had one case law where it proved as an it comes under Insurance Act. The next one was whether the indemnifier becomes, when does the indemnifier become liable? That is, should he be liable before the loss occur or after the loss occur? He can anticipate, right, when does the loss occur. So the court gave a judgment. There are two different opinions by different courts, but one judgment, that is Gajendra Moreshwar case, you can find it that the court has given a clear explanation about it, saying that yes, the liability is absolute and after it is incurred, then it can be recovered. So this was about your contract of indemnity. And a contract of guarantee, you had what is contract of guarantee, basic definition of contract of guarantee. Section 126 gives you the meaning of contract of guarantee definition. Then you had some illustrations. Please do remember some illustrations that are very important. Then you had parties, number of parties there. Then type of contract, you got to know there are three contracts existing mutually between these parties, and who are the parties? Three parties: principal, debtor, creditor and surety. Then you got to know about the types of contract. There is principal contract, secondary contract, and there is an implied contract. Then we got to know what are the essentials of this contract of guarantee: existence of principal debt, consideration, free consent of surety, and it should be written or oral. These are the very important things. You have to be well prepared for this. Then coming to the next point, we got to know about the liability of the surety. Liability of the surety is always coextensive with that of liability of the principal debtor. We got to know a case law there also. Then what is the meaning of that coextensive? It is exactly the same. And also remember that principal debtor and surety is jointly and severally liable to pay. We got to know few situation where the liability arises and how the surety has to discharge when, where. Everything we have discussed under section 128, that is where the liability of the surety is coextensive with that of liability of surety. Liability of the surety is coextensive with that liability of principal debtor unless otherwise provided by the contract. The contract can have certain exception. For example, they can limit the extent of liability. I mean, the surety can say that instead of 1 lakh rupees where the loan amount is, he can say I'll be paying only 50,000. So they can limit it, and he can be made liable for only for the extent of 50,000. This was just an example. There are many examples. Then after that, what we dealt was discharge, modes of discharge of surety. There are 7 modes of discharge: by revocation, by death of the surety, by variance in the contract. Then we dealt with by compounding with, or by extension of time, by agreeing not to sue. Then we also dealt with other modes of discharge also. Then after that, we again we dealt with the surety's rights against principal debtor, creditor and co-sureties. Then the last point was difference between contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee, where we got to know that at some point only it is not very much at prominence, but at some point there is something like making up for the loss. So we got to know what are the difference between contract of indemnity and guarantee.